He was a CEO. She was his 7 months pregnant wife. And she was his ambitious mistress. In the middle of the year's most lavish charity gala, Morgan Thorne made his choice. He didn't just abandon his wife, Emiya. He handed the microphone to his mistress, Soraya, and let her publicly humiliate the mother of his child. He let her mock Emiya's pregnancy, her loyalty, her very worth as a woman. Morgan and Soraya thought they had won. They thought they had all the power. They were wrong. They forgot about her brothers, and the lawyers they were bringing with them. The penthouse on Park Avenue was less a home and more a museum exhibit on wealth. It was all glass, steel, and stark white marble that felt cold underfoot, even in July. Emiya Hayes Thorne, 7.5 months pregnant, felt like one of the exhibits. The fulfilled wife, polished, prized, and profoundly lonely. Her husband, Morgan Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries, was a man carved from the same material as the apartment. He was handsome, driven, and saw life as a series of acquisitions. Emiya, he had once told her, was his best merger. She came from a solid, hard-working family in Boston, the Hayeses, who had built a construction empire from the ground up. She was grounded, beautiful, and possessed a quiet integrity that the old money board members admired. She was, in short, the perfect accessory. Lately that accessory was being left in the box. "I'll be late tonight, Emiya," Morgan said, his voice a familiar, detached baritone from the doorway of their cavernous bedroom. He was adjusting the knot of his Brioni silk tie, his reflection staring back at him in a floor-to-ceiling mirror. Emiya sat up in their enormous bed, rubbing the small of her back. "Again?" "Morgan, the gala is on Saturday. We were supposed to go over the seating chart, and Dr. Brown said—" "Dr. Brown isn't running a multi-billion-dollar aerospace conglomerate," he cut her off, not unkindly, but with a finality that stung. "This merger with Axiom is critical. I need to wine and dine them, you understand." He didn't wait for an answer. He walked over, kissed the top of her head, a sterile, papery peck, and walked out. The heavy click of the apartment door sealing itself was the loneliest sound in the world. Emiya sighed, placing a hand on the taut drum of her stomach. The baby kicked, a small, insistent flutter. "I know, little one," she whispered. "He's busy. It's just work." But she knew it was a lie. The work had a name. She had found it a week prior on his American Express black card statement, which he'd carelessly left on his desk. It wasn't the dinners at Per Se or the charges from the Four Seasons that caught her eye. It was the smaller, more insidious purchases. A $5,000 charge at Cartier, listed as a love bracelet. A series of dinners at an intimate hideaway restaurant called Le Verre. And then a name on a flower delivery receipt. For Soraya. You were magnificent. Soraya. The name sounded like a hiss. Emiya had Googled her. Soraya Vance. She was new, brought on as a brand strategy consultant for Thorne Industries. She was sleek, sharp, and had the hungry eyes of a predator. Her Instagram was a curated tapestry of borrowed luxury. Morgan's yacht, the view from his private jet, the passenger seat of his Aston Martin. Emiya was not a stupid woman. She was a Hayes. Her brothers, Liam and Connor, had taught her to read blueprints and balance sheets before she could drive. They had warned her about Morgan. "He's not like us, Ellie," Liam, the elder, had said over bourbon at their engagement party. "We build things with our hands. He buys things. Be careful you don't become one of them." She had dismissed it as brotherly overprotectiveness. She loved Morgan. Or at least, she loved the man he had been, the one who quoted poetry in Central Park and swore she was the only real thing in his life. That man was gone, replaced by this cold CEO. She stood and walked to the wall of glass overlooking the city. The lights of Manhattan glittered like a carpet of fallen stars, but they offered no warmth. She was isolated, 30 floors above the world, and her marriage was breaking apart. She called Connor, the younger, more fiery of her brothers. Hayes Construction, Connor speaking. His voice boomed, full of life and sawdust. "Hey, Con, it's me." The shift in his tone was immediate. "Ellie, you okay? You sound tired. Is that bastard working you too hard?" Emir tried to laugh, but it came out as a sob. "No, he's working hard. I'm just pregnant and hormonal." "Bullshit," Connor said, his voice sharpening. "I know hormonal. This is miserable. What did he do?" "It's nothing, really. He's just distant. He's working on this new merger with this consultant, a woman named Saraya Vance." There was a dead silence on the line. Emir could picture him in his office, leaning forward, his good-natured expression hardening into the Hayes face, the one that made contractors nervous. "Saraya Vance," he repeated, testing the name. "Blonde, sharp nose, looks like she'd shank you for a front-row seat at Fashion Week." Emir's blood ran cold. "You know her?" "Liam and I ran into her at the LAX private terminal last month. She was hanging all over Morgan. He introduced her as his new head of PR. Liam didn't like the look of her. He had our security guy, Mike, run a background check." Emir sank onto a plush white sofa. "And?" "She's a shark, Ellie. Leaves a trail of ruined marriages and leveraged buyouts. She's not a consultant. She's a homewrecker with a business degree. Morgan knows exactly who she is." The cold, hard truth of it settled over her, heavier than the baby. "He bought her a Cartier bracelet, Con." Another silence, this one more dangerous. Okay, Ellie. Listen to me. Liam's in Tokyo, but he's back Thursday. I'm on a plane tonight. I'll be at the Carlisle by midnight." "No, Connor, you can't," Emir protested, wiping her eyes. "The gala. It's the Thorne Foundation's biggest night. It's for the Children's Hospital. I can't make a scene. I don't care about a damn party." "I do," she insisted, a spark of her own fire returning. "This is my foundation, too. I built it. I won't let her ruin it. I needed to hear your voice. I'll handle Morgan. I'll handle her. I have to be smart about this." Connor was quiet for a long moment. "All right, Ellie. We do it your way. For now. But you're not alone in this. You're a Hayes. We don't break. We build and we demolish. You remember that. You call me, day or night, you hear me. The second you need us, we're there. And we won't be coming to talk." They hung up. Emir looked at her reflection in the dark glass. She looked pale, tired, and very pregnant. But her eyes were her father's. They were her brother's. They were steel. "Okay, Saraya," Emir whispered to the glittering, indifferent city. "You want my husband? You want my life? You'll have to come and take it." The attack didn't come head-on. It came, as it always does, with a smile. Emir's charity luncheon, a pre-gala event for the Foundation's high-level donors, was held at the Modern. It was Emir's element. She navigated the room with an easy grace, her navy blue seraphine maternity dress, elegant and professional. She was discussing the new pediatric oncology wing when a shadow fell over her table. "Emir, darling, you look absolutely glowing. Motherhood just suits you so well." Emir turned. It was Saraya Vance. In person, she was even more striking than her photos. She was dressed in a razor-sharp, white Alexander McQueen pantsuit, her blonde hair pulled into a severe, high ponytail. She was a blade in a room of soft fabrics. "Saraya, what a surprise. I didn't realize you were a donor." Maya said, her voice smooth as cream. "Oh, I'm not," Soraya laughed, a light, tinkling sound that grated on Emia's nerves. "Morgan sent me. He said you were handling all this domestic stuff, and he wanted to make sure the corporate vision was represented. We're partners, after all." She said, partners with a proprietary emphasis, her eyes scanning Emiya from head to toe. The look was not subtle. It was a sizing up. This is what he's tied to? This is what I have to beat? "How kind of him," Emiya said, taking a sip of water. "But the foundation is quite separate from Thorn Industries. This is about philanthropy, not P&L. "Oh, but isn't everything?" Soraya purred, sliding into the empty chair beside Emiya. She leaned in conspiratorially. "That's what Morgan and I always say. Everything is a transaction. You just have to know what you're willing to pay." She glanced pointedly at Emiya's swollen abdomen. "And what you're willing to carry." The table went quiet. The other donors, wives of bankers and tech moguls, suddenly found their salads fascinating. Emiya placed her napkin on the table. "Soraya, I appreciate your unique perspective, but perhaps a charity luncheon isn't the best place for a hostile takeover." Soraya's smile widened. She had drawn blood, and she knew it. "You're right. My mistake. I'll see you at the gala, of course. Morgan is having a custom gown made for me. Armani. He's so insistent on the details. He said he wants his partner to shine." She stood up, a vision in white, and glided away, leaving a toxic cloud of Tom Ford perfume in her wake. Emiya's hands were shaking. She excused herself and went to the restroom, locking herself in a stall. She leaned her head against the cool marble, breathing deeply. This was worse than she thought. This wasn't a secret affair. It was a public campaign. Soraya wasn't just sleeping with her husband. She was auditioning for her job. That evening, Morgan came home early, which meant 9 p.m. He found Emiya in the nursery, rocking in the chair they had picked out together. "You missed the luncheon?" she said, her voice flat. "I know, I'm sorry. The Axiom deal is at a critical juncture." He loosened his tie, his gaze distant. "You sent her." That got his attention. He stopped, his jacket halfway off. "I sent my head of PR to represent the company. Soraya is brilliant. She's increasing our brand visibility by 40%. She insulted me, Morgan, in front of my donors." Morgan sighed, the sound of a deeply impatient man. "Emiya, don't be dramatic. Soraya is direct. It's the new generation. You're used to the old guard. You're being sensitive. It's the pregnancy." It was his new favorite excuse. Everything that wasn't perfect compliance was the pregnancy. "She insinuated she was your partner. She mocked me for being pregnant." Morgan actually scoffed. "Mocked you? Emiya, you wanted this baby. You knew I was busy. I'm giving you everything. This penthouse, a black card with no limit, a child. What more do you want? I have to work. And if work includes smoothing things over with a brilliant, if abrasive consultant, that's what I have to do. Stop being so needy." The word hit her like a slap. Needy. "I'm not needy," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "I'm your wife. And you will be my wife," he said, walking over and trying to rub her shoulders. She flinched. "This is just a stressful time, baby. This merger, it's worth $9 billion. It needs my full attention. After it closes, and after the baby comes, everything will go back to normal. I promise." But as he said it, his phone, left on the dresser, lit up. A text message. "Soraya, heard the little wifey was upset. Don't worry, I'll make you feel better tonight. Your place or mine?" Morgan saw Emiya read it. He didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He simply picked up the phone, deleted the message, and put it in his pocket. "Get some sleep, Emir," he said, his voice cold as the grave. "You look terrible, and you have a gala to prepare for. You're representing this family, after all." He left the nursery, leaving her in the dark, surrounded by soft toys and the smell of new paint, her world collapsing in on itself. The final betrayal wasn't a whisper. It was a formal decree. 2 days before the gala, Emir was with the event planner at the plaza, where the gala was being held, finalizing the floral arrangements. "Mrs. Thorne, there's a new item on the schedule," the planner, a nervous woman named Gillian, said, avoiding Emire's eyes. "What is it?" Emire asked, checking the lighting cues. "Mr. Thorne's office called this morning. He's added a co-host." Emir froze. "A co-host? I've hosted this event solo for 5 years. Yes, well, he's insisted. He said he wanted to take the stress off you, given your condition. The new co-host is a Ms. Soraya Vance." Gillian winced, bracing for an explosion. Emir, however, felt a strange, icy calm. Of course, this was the next move. First the private insult, then the public replacement. "And," Gillian continued, "Ms. Vance has also been added to the speaker's docket, right after Mr. Thorne's main address. She's listed as the future of Thorne Industries." The future of Thorne Industries, not Emir, not their child. Soraya. "Thank you, Gillian," Emir said, her voice betraying no emotion. "Please ensure the teleprompter is calibrated for her speech. I wouldn't want her to miss a word." Gillian looked stunned. "Mrs. Thorne? Are you all right?" "I'm perfectly fine," Emir said, gathering her purse. "The lilies are a lovely choice." She walked out of the plaza, head held high, and got into her driver-provided Mercedes. As soon as the door closed, she dialed. "Liam, are you back?" "Just landed at Teterboro." "What's wrong?" "He's replacing me," Emir said, the words tumbling out. "He's making her the co-host of the gala. He's putting her on stage, Liam, in front of everyone. He's going to humiliate me." "No, he's not." Liam's voice was flint. "He's not. I'm calling Connor. We're handling this. Tonight." "No," Emir said. "Don't you see? This is what they want. They want me to scream, to cry, to make a scene. They want to paint me as the hysterical pregnant wife. If I fight them now, I look like the problem. Morgan will use it to justify everything. See? She's unstable. I can't win that way. So what's the plan, Ellie? You let them do it? You let this viper stand on your stage and take your life?" Emir watched the people of New York, anonymous and busy, rushing down Fifth Avenue. "No, I'm going to let them try. I'm going to go to that gala. I'm going to wear my best dress, and I'm going to hold my head high. I'm going to let them show the world exactly who they are. And I want you and Connor to be there." "We'll be there," Liam said. "But Ellie, we can't not just as my brothers," Emir interrupted, a new, hard resolve in her voice. "Come as the heads of Hayes Construction. Bring your security, bring your poise. But Liam, bring your lawyers." There was a pause, a long, impressed, and frankly terrifying pause. "Ellie," Liam said, a new respect in his tone. "I've already got them on retainer. I called them the day Connor told me about Vance. They've been digging for 2 weeks. What have they found? More than you can imagine. Morgan isn't just a bastard, Emir. He's a criminal. And he's been using you." Emir's heart hammered. "What do you mean, using me?" "I'll explain on Saturday. Just be strong. Can you be strong for 48 more hours?" Emir looked at her rounded belly in the reflection of the car window. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. "I can," she said. "Good. One more thing. Our guys, they found something in Morgan's office trash, a receipt for a prosthetic baby bump from a theatrical prop store in the village. Emia's mind reeled. What? Why? We don't know, Liam said. But be ready for anything, Ellie. This Soraya, she's not just a mistress. She's a con artist. The night of the confrontation, Emia was packing a small, just-in-case bag in her dressing room when Morgan came in. He was already in his tuxedo. He looked devastatingly handsome, and Emia felt a pang of a loss so deep it almost buckled her knees. "You're still going?" he asked, genuinely surprised. "I thought, after I made Soraya co-host, you'd take the hint. Stay home. Rest." "And let her have my stage?" Emia said, zipping the bag. "My foundation, my life. No, Morgan, I'll be there." He sighed, that martyr's sigh. "Emia, you're making this so difficult. It doesn't have to be. This thing. With Soraya, it's just business. It's a power couple move. It's good for the brand." "And what am I? Bad for the brand?" she asked, turning to face him. "You," he said, walking to her and placing a hand on her stomach, "are the legacy. You're the mother of my heir. That's a different, safer role. Soraya is for the front line. It's just how it is. You're my wife. She's my partner. Why can't you just accept that?" The sheer, breathtaking arrogance of it was what finally severed the last thread of love she had for him. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a narcissist of such epic proportions that he genuinely believed he could have both. "I'll see you at the gala, Morgan," she said, pushing his hand off her belly. "I hope your partner is ready for her close-up." The grand ballroom at the plaza was a sea of black ties, diamonds, and forced smiles. The air buzzed with the sound of a string quartet and the clinking of champagne glasses. Emia Thorne, in a custom midnight blue gown by Oscar de la Renta that draped her pregnancy in ethereal chiffon, was a portrait of serene dignity. She greeted senators, philanthropists, and board members as if her heart wasn't a lead weight in her chest. Morgan and Soraya worked the other side of the room. Soraya was a slash of scarlet silk, a custom Armani gown that was indecently low-cut and impossibly tight. She was plastered to Morgan's side, her hand possessively on his arm, her laugh loud and sharp. They were the power couple. Emia was the relic. Emia saw her brothers enter, Liam and Connor. They were not in tuxedos. They were in dark, impeccably tailored Xenia business suits. They looked less like guests and more like a hostile takeover, which Emia supposed they were. They gave her a single, firm nod from across the room before melting into the shadows near the back entrance, flanking two other individuals, a man and a woman in equally severe suits, carrying briefcases. The lawyers. Dinner was a blur. Emia picked at her food, aware of the pitying glances and the whispers. So blatant. Poor thing, and pregnant too. Heard he's giving Soraya a board seat. Finally the lights dimmed. Morgan took the stage to a wave of applause. He was a charismatic speaker, all charm and confidence. Thank you, he beamed. "Welcome all of you to the Thorne Foundation's greatest night. Tonight we celebrate a new wing for the hospital, but we also celebrate a new vision." He spoke for 10 minutes about synergy and forward-thinking partnerships. Emia could have recited the speech by heart. "But I couldn't have done this alone," he continued, his voice dropping. "This last year has been one of incredible growth, and I have to thank the person who has been my rock, my inspiration, and my true partner in this new vision." A spotlight swiveled. Emia braced herself, expecting it to find her. It didn't. It found Soraya, who was standing near the stage, beaming. "Please welcome Ms. Soraya Vance." The applause was more hesitant this time. Soraya glided onto the stage, took Morgan's hand, and kissed him. It wasn't a peck. It was a long, slow, possessive kiss. Right there, in front of his 7 months pregnant wife and 500 of New York's elite. Cameras flashed. Emir felt the blood drain from her face. "Thank you, Morgan," Soraya cooed into the microphone, her voice dripping with triumph. "Morgan and I believe that the future is about truth. It's about honesty. It's about cutting away the things that no longer serve the vision. The old, the tired, the sentimental." Her eyes found Emir in the crowd. It was a direct hit. "We believe in creating a new legacy," Soraya continued, placing a hand on her own, perfectly flat stomach. "A legacy built on passion and strength, not just obligation." Morgan, standing beside her, just smiled, basking in her. He let her do it. He was letting this happen. "And so," Soraya said, her voice rising, "Morgan and I are so thrilled to make a special announcement tonight. A new video to show you exactly what our new vision looks like." The massive screen above the stage, which was supposed to be showing a heartwarming video of the hospital's patients, flickered. "Hit it," Soraya commanded. The screen lit up. It was not a video of children. It was a slideshow, a photo of Soraya and Morgan on his yacht, her in a tiny bikini, him kissing her neck. A photo of them in his office, after hours, her perched on his desk, a bottle of champagne. A photo of them at Le Verre, him sliding the Cartier love bracelet onto her wrist. The ballroom was in stunned, horrified silence. Emir felt like she couldn't breathe. This was it, the public execution. "But that's not our biggest news," Soraya said, her voice giddy with malice. The final image appeared on the screen. It was a sonogram. "Morgan and I are so excited to announce. We're starting a family too, a real family." The cruelty of it was bottomless. Soraya turned, her scarlet dress flashing, and walked directly off the stage, microphone in hand, toward Emire's table. The spotlight followed her. Emire was frozen, 1,000 camera phones pointed at her. She was trapped. Soraya stopped right in front of her, leaning down, her voice a venomous whisper that the microphone picked up and blasted through the ballroom. "See, darling," Soraya whispered, gesturing to the sonogram still on the screen. "He wants an heir, someone to continue the real line, not just this." She reached out a manicured finger and, in front of everyone, tapped Emire's pregnant belly with a look of utter disgust. "It's over," Soraya smirked. "You've been replaced." Emir just stared, tears blurring her vision. The humiliation was absolute. She had lost. And then, "That's enough." The voice was not Liam's. It was not Connor's. It was a voice of pure, cold command. The main ballroom doors, which had been closed, swung open with a crash, flooding the back of the room with light. The 2 men who entered were not part of the gala. They were the men Emir had seen earlier, the ones in the severe business suits. Liam and Connor followed directly behind them, their faces set like granite. The entire ballroom turned. Security guards, hired by the plaza, started to move toward the intruders. But Liam held up a hand. "We're guests," he said, his voice cutting through the silence, "of Mrs. Emir Hayes Thorne." The music had stopped. The spotlight was still on Emir and Soraya. Morgan, finally jolted from his smug stupor, stormed over. "What is the meaning of this? Liam? Connor? This is a private event. Get your people out of here." "They're not our people, Morgan," Connor said, walking past him as if he were furniture. He went directly to Emir, took off his own suit jacket, and wrapped it tenderly around her shaking shoulders. "It's over, Ellie. We're going home." She's not going anywhere, Soraya shrieked, her mask of triumph cracking. This is my night, Ms. Vance, said the woman lawyer, stepping forward. Her heels clicked with sharp, terrifying authority on the marble floor. My name is Emily Reed, from Reed Capital Forensics. I'd advise you to be silent. And I, said the older man, stepping up beside her, am Eris Thorne. A collective gasp went through the room. The board members at the front tables sat bolt upright. Morgan's face went from angry to ashen. Uncle Aris, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Zurich. I was, Aris Thorne said, his voice a low rumble of disappointment. I flew in when Ms. Reed's audit became alarming. But before we get to business, I believe my colleague has a question for Miss Vance. Emily Reed, the forensic accountant, looked at Soraya. Her eyes were chips of ice. Ms. Vance, Emily said, her voice amplified by the still live microphone Connor had retrieved. You just announced your pregnancy. Congratulations. Soraya, sensing the trap, clutched Morgan's arm. Yes. We're very happy. That's fascinating, Emily said, tapping her briefcase. Because we have here a receipt, dated 2 days ago, from the Thespian's Closet, a theatrical prop shop in the East Village, for one custom silicone 4-month pregnancy prosthetic, paid for by your corporate card. The one Mr. Thorne gave you. Soraya's face crumpled. The lie, so bold and vicious, was now exposed as pathetic. And the sonogram, Emily continued. My associate tracked the source image. It's the first result on Google Images for 12-week sonogram. It's stock photography. Soraya began to hyperventilate. Morgan, tell them it's real. Morgan just stared at her, his mind visibly shattering as he realized the depth of her fraud. He had been played too. She lied to me, he stammered, looking at his uncle. Eris, she lied. Oh, we're just getting started, Morgan, Liam said, stepping forward. That's her lie. Now let's talk about yours. All eyes turned to Aris Thorne. He was the ghost of the family. Morgan's father's brilliant, reclusive brother, who had supposedly cashed out of the company decades ago. Morgan, Aris began, his voice filled with a weary sadness that was somehow more terrifying than anger. When your father died, he left me his half of the company, a 25% stake in Thorne Industries. You all thought I sold it to travel the world. You did, Morgan whispered, clinging to his reality. The shares were bought by a holding company. A holding company that I own, Aris said. I never approved of the way you did business, boy. You were all flash and no foundation. I held those shares, waiting for you to either grow up or implode. Then you met Emir. Aris turned and gave Emir a warm, paternal smile. I had her vetted, of course, not like your associates. She was brilliant, grounded. She was a haze. She was, in short, everything you are not. She was the only good decision you ever made. So, on your wedding day, Aris continued, as a gift to her, and in an attempt to stabilize my legacy, I transferred my entire 25% stake into a blind trust. A trust in her name. Morgan's knees visibly buckled. 25%. She controls 25%? She did, Aris corrected. The trust, which I manage as the sole trustee, was ironclad. It had one very specific, very personal clause, a marital misconduct clause. It stipulated that the assets were hers, and by extension, your family's, for as long as she was treated with the respect and fidelity befitting a partner. But, he gestured to the stage, the slideshow, and the sobbing Soraya. In the event of gross marital misconduct, public humiliation, or emotional endangerment, Control of the 25% stake reverts entirely and immediately to me, the trustee. You didn't just cheat on your wife, Morgan. You just handed me back a quarter of your company. A dozen board members were on their feet. Is this true, Aris? One yelled. It is, Aris confirmed, and as of 3 minutes ago, I am once again the single largest shareholder in Thorn Industries. I am calling an emergency meeting of the board, right here, right now, all in favor of removing Morgan Thorn as CEO, effective immediately, pending a full criminal investigation. Hands shot up all over the room. It was unanimous. Wait, criminal! Morgan shrieked, finally finding his voice. This is a family matter. You can't. That's my cue, said Emily Reed, the forensic accountant. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick, bound report. Mr. Thorn, she said, addressing Morgan. For the last 3 weeks, at the request of the Hayes family and Mr. Oris Thorn, I have been conducting a full forensic audit of Thorn Industries and your personal accounts. You're not just a bad husband, Mr. Thorn. You're a thief. She projected her laptop screen onto the gala's main display, replacing the fake sonogram. It was a flowchart of shell companies. You've been embezzling, Emily stated, her voice sharp, for 2 years, funneling corporate funds into shell accounts. SV Consulting, Vance Holdings, Axiom Futura, all feeding into one main account, an account in the Cayman Islands, an account you used to buy Miss Vance her condo at 15 Central Park West, her G-Wagon, her Armani gown. You didn't just bring your mistress to the party, Morgan. You made your wife's foundation pay for her dress. The room was electric with disgust. You, Emily said, pointing at Morgan, used the Axiom merger as a smokescreen to launder over 80 million. Only Axiom isn't a real company. It's a front, registered to, oh, look at that, Soraya Vance. Soraya, who had been trying to sneak out, was stopped at the door by 2 of Liam's security guys. This is insane, Morgan sputtered, looking around for an ally. There were none. It's over, Morgan, Liam said, his voice low and final. You didn't just humiliate my sister. You tried to ruin her. You defrauded her. You used her foundation, her goodness, as your personal slush fund. And now you're going to pay. 2 uniformed NYPD officers, who had been waiting discreetly by the service entrance with Aris, stepped forward. Morgan Thorn, one of them said, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and grand larceny. As they cuffed him, Morgan's eyes found Emia's. There was no remorse, only rage. You! He spat at her. You did this! You ruined me! Emia just looked at him, her hand on her belly, her brother's coat around her shoulders. She said nothing. The officers turned to Soraya. Miss Vance, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. You can't! She screamed, all her poise gone, revealing the grasping, terrified creature beneath. I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant, she sobbed, clutching the prop bump she was still wearing under her gown. The officer just looked at her. Then at the receipt in Ms. Reed's hand. Ma'am, he said, you can take that off at the precinct. The click of the handcuffs ratcheting shut around Morgan Thorn's wrists was the loudest sound Emiah had ever heard. It was louder than the string quartet, louder than the horrified gasps, louder than the frantic, animalistic sobs that were now ripping from Soraya Vance as the reality of her theatrical, fraudulent ploy collapsed around her. In the vacuum of that stunned, opulent ballroom, a new kind of power dynamic was born. The 500 members of New York's elite were frozen, their camera phones still raised as they witnessed the unthinkable, the public, humiliating, and total fall of a king. You did this! Morgan roared, his face a mask of purple rage, his handsome features contorted into something reptilian. He lunged, a last desperate act of intimidation, but he was tethered by the officer. His eyes, full of pure, undiluted hatred, were locked on Emir. "You ruined me. You ungrateful." "That's enough," Connor Hayes said, his voice a low growl. He hadn't moved from Emire's side. He stepped slightly in front of her, a human shield. His jacket was still wrapped around her shoulders, a warm, protective shroud. Liam was already in motion, his presence commanding. He spoke quietly to his security team, who had seamlessly and silently secured the exits. He nodded to the officers. "Get them out. Use the service entrance. The press is already gathering at the front." "You can't!" Soraya shrieked, clawing at the officer's arm as he tried to lift her. Her scarlet dress was rumpled, her face a grotesque mess of running mascara and terror. The silicone prop bump, dislodged in her panic, was now visibly askew beneath the silk, a lump of pathetic plastic. I'm a victim. He made me. I love him." "Tell it to the district attorney, ma'am," the officer said, his voice flat with indifference. "Let's go." As they were dragged away, Morgan never stopped staring at Emir. His gaze was a promise of vengeance. But Emir, her hand resting on the solid, real life within her, refused to look away. She met his gaze, not with triumph, not with anger, but with the cold, quiet finality of an ending. She was no longer afraid of him. Aris Thorne, his face a portrait of weary disappointment, walked to the stage and took the microphone from the floor where Soraya had dropped it. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice boomed, steady and strong. "My apologies for the interruption. As of this moment, Thorne Industries is under new leadership. The foundation and all its assets are secure. Please enjoy your evening. The bar is open." It was a masterful stroke of control, but no one was moving. All eyes were on Emir. Liam came to her side. "Ellie, let's go." Connor held out his arm. "Time to go home, sis." Emir took a deep breath, the first one that didn't feel constricted by fear in over a year. She stood, and the entire ballroom seemed to hold its breath. This was her exit. This was the reverse of the walk of shame. She, Emir Emire Hayes, began to walk. The crowd parted for her like the Red Sea, their faces a mixture of pity, awe, and morbid curiosity. She ignored them all. Her chin was high, her gaze fixed on the doors. She had entered as a prop, an accessory, a victim. She was leaving as the victor. As they reached the lobby, the muffled roar from outside became a cacophony. The press, alerted by an anonymous tip, likely from Liam's team, was a blinding wall of flash bulbs. "Mrs. Thorne, what happened? Did you know he was cheating? Emir, over here." Her brothers formed a tight wedge around her, their broad shoulders blocking the view as they guided her into a waiting, black haze construction SUV. The heavy armored door shut with a solid thunk, sealing out the noise, the city, and the life she was leaving behind. Emir leaned her head against the cool leather, closed her eyes, and for the first time in months, she truly breathed. The aftermath was a media tidal wave. The New York Post, in a moment of gleeful inspiration, dubbed the event the Gala of the Takedown. Morgan and Soraya were the city's new villains. Talk shows dissected every second of the footage, which had been leaked from a dozen angles. Soraya's fake pregnancy became a national punchline, a meme, the very symbol of desperate, fraudulent ambition. Emir, in contrast, was painted as a figure of quiet, tragic dignity. She was the pregnant princess who had been betrayed, only to be rescued by her Boston Knight brothers and a long-lost, benevolent uncle. The narrative was perfect. But Emir ignored it all. She was in Boston, in the guest wing of Liam and his wife, Sarah's sprawling, warm home in Brookline. The house was all warm woods, shelves overflowing with books, and the smell of fresh coffee and sawdust. It was everything the Park Avenue penthouse was not. It was a home. Her last trip to New York was 2 weeks later, with Liam. They went to the penthouse to retrieve her personal belongings. The apartment, once her gilded cage, now just felt empty. It was a cold, sterile museum to a dead life. She walked past the designer gowns, the vault of jewelry Morgan had gifted her, the priceless art. She packed one suitcase. In it, she put her grandmother's locket, her college textbooks, a few simple outfits, and the things she had bought for the baby. She left her 10-carat engagement ring on the marble nightstand. As she walked out the door, she didn't look back. The legal battle was as swift as it was brutal. Soraya Vance, facing a 2-decade sentence for conspiracy, wire fraud, and her role in the $80 million Axiom scheme, turned on Morgan with the same ruthless speed she had used to try and replace Emir. She sang like a canary, her lawyer said. She detailed in lurid detail how Morgan had planned the entire thing, how they were going to use the gala to publicly disgrace Emir, paint her as unstable and hormonal, and then use Soraya's fake pregnancy to force a divorce settlement that would have left Emir with next to nothing. Morgan's trial was a formality. Aris, as the new CEO of Thorn Industries, had opened the books completely to the district attorney. Emily Reed's forensic audit was a work of art, a precise, irrefutable map of Morgan's greed. He had tried to blame Soraya, then Aris, and in a final, desperate move, he had his lawyer try to claim Emir was a co-conspirator who had turned on him. The jury was out for less than an hour. Guilty, on all 27 counts. Emir was in the courtroom when the sentence was read. She needed to see it end. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, looked at Morgan with undisguised contempt. "Mr. Thorne, you are a man who had everything. A brilliant wife, a child on the way, a billion-dollar company. You had love and you had legacy, and you chose, out of pure, unadulterated greed, to throw it all away. You stole from your own company, you defrauded your own foundation, and you perpetrated an act of calculated public cruelty against your wife that this court finds utterly sociopathic. You are not just a criminal, sir. You are a coward." He was sentenced to 15 years in a federal penitentiary. As he was led away, his cold, furious eyes found Emir one last time. She simply stood, her hand on her belly, and watched him disappear. The spell was broken. He was just a man, a small, pathetic, broken man. 6 weeks later, Emir's world shifted on its axis. The labor was long, but she was not alone. Sarah held one hand, and Liam, looking more terrified than he ever had on a construction site, was on the other. Connor was in the waiting room, pacing a trench in the linoleum, buying out the entire vending machine in a nervous frenzy. At 3:14 a.m., Emir Hayes gave birth to a healthy, 7-pound, 4-ounce baby girl. "She's perfect," Emir whispered, tears of joy and relief streaming down her face as the nurse placed the tiny bundled child on her chest. The baby had a tuft of dark hair and a hazed chin. "What's her name?" Sarah asked, her own eyes wet. Emir looked at her daughter, this new, tiny person who represented the end of one life and the absolute beginning of another. "Rose," she said. "Her name is Rose." A rose was beautiful and soft, she thought, but it had thorns to protect itself. It was the perfect name. When Liam and Connor were allowed in, these two huge, formidable men who commanded boardrooms and construction crews, they crumbled. Connor, the fiery one, just stood by the door, his hands in his pockets, his eyes shining. Liam walked forward slowly, as if in a daze, and gently touched Rose's head with one thick finger. "Hey there, Rose," he whispered, his voice thick. "I'm your Uncle Liam, and we are going to spoil you rotten." Life found a new, gentle rhythm. Emia's days were filled with bottles, naps, and the overwhelming, profound love for her daughter. She lived with Liam and Sarah for the first 6 months, letting her family's love and support be the balm she needed. The brothers were in a silent competition for favorite uncle, showering Rose with gifts, from gigantic teddy bears to custom-made, bright pink and very tiny Hayes construction hard hats. Emia's divorce was finalized on a quiet Tuesday. Morgan from prison signed the papers without contest. He had nothing left to fight with. The penthouse, the cars, the art, all of it had been seized and liquidated to begin paying back the $80 million he had stolen. When Rose was 8 months old, Aris Thorne came to Boston. He didn't request a meeting at an office. He came to Liam's house for Sunday dinner. He sat on the porch with Emia, looking not like a cutthroat CEO, but like the kind uncle he had become. "The company is stable," he reported, sipping a lemonade. "We've cleaned house. The board is solid. Thorne Industries is actually building things again, not just acquiring." He smiled. "I think you'd be proud. I'm glad, Aris. Thank you." "For everything," Emia said, bouncing Rose on her knee. "I didn't come just to talk business," he said. He reached for his briefcase and pulled out a formal, leather-bound portfolio. He handed it to her. Emia opened it. Inside was a cashier's check. Her breath caught. The check, made out to Emia Hayes, was for $80 million. "Aris, I can't," she stammered. "Emia," he said gently, "this is not a gift. This is restitution. This is the money that was stolen, the money he laundered through shell companies, all of which were legally tied to the assets of your marital trust. Emily Reed's team, in cooperation with the SEC, clawed back every single dime from the Cayman accounts, the sale of Soraya's condo, all of it. According to the federal government, this money was stolen from you. It's yours. It's not Thorne money. It's Hayes money now." Emia stared at the number. 80,000. It was a staggering, life-altering sum. It was the price of her humiliation, her pain, her fear, and now it was her power. "I have one other thing for you," Aris said. "The board and I have officially created a new seat. It's the Emia Hayes Thorne seat, a permanent position in recognition of your resilience. And the 25% stake that started this all. It's yours, Emia. Whenever you're ready, come back to New York. Help me run this company." Emia looked at the check, then at Aris, then down at her daughter, who was happily chewing on a plastic ring. A boardroom, a seat at the table. It was the life she thought she wanted. It was the life Soraya had tried to kill for. She smiled, a slow, sure smile. "Thank you, Aris. I will consider it. But first, I think I have something else I need to build." 2 years later, the Rose Hayes Center for Women and Children opened its doors in a revitalized neighborhood in Boston. It was not a sterile, foreboding shelter. Emia had commissioned the best architects from her brother's firm to design it. It was beautiful, built from warm red brick, with massive windows that let in the light, a secure inner courtyard filled with playgrounds, and a state-of-the-art childcare facility. It offered free legal aid from a team led by Emily Reed, financial literacy workshops, and trauma counseling. The plaque by the door, unveiled on opening day, was simple. Funded by the Hayes Family Foundation, in honor of all who build new beginnings. Emia, as the center's full-time director, was giving a tour. Her old life of galas and designer gowns felt like a distant, strange dream. She was dressed in smart trousers and a silk blouse, her hair tied back, her expression one of focused, quiet passion. Her daughter, Rose, now a bright, curious toddler, held her hand, chattering about a butterfly in the garden. They entered a common room, where a new arrival, a young woman named Maria, was sitting on a sofa, clutching a small baby to her chest. She looked pale, exhausted, and utterly terrified. Emir sat down, not opposite her, but gently beside her. "Hi, Maria. I'm Emir. Welcome to the center. That's a beautiful baby." Maria flinched, then relaxed slightly. "Thank you. His name is Leo. It's all so beautiful. I don't feel like I belong here. You can't possibly understand," she whispered, looking at Emire's composed, elegant appearance. You. Emir looked at the young woman, seeing a reflection of herself from a lifetime ago. The same bone-deep fear, the same feeling of being trapped. She leaned in, her voice soft but firm. "I do understand. I know what it feels like to be afraid in your own home. I know what it feels like to have someone try to take your voice, your power, and even your child. I know exactly what it feels like to think your life is over." Maria's eyes widened, her gaze flickering from Emir to the building around them. You built all this?" Emir looked around the bright, safe room, at the playroom filled with toys, at the legal aid office where women were planning their futures. She looked down at Rose, who was now trying to stack blocks on her mother's shoe. She smiled, a real, warm smile that reached her eyes. "I had help. But yes, my family. We're builders." She squeezed Maria's hand. "We know how to demolish a rotten foundation and build something new, something strong, and something that will last. And so will you. Welcome home." The fall was as swift as the betrayal was brutal. Morgan Thorne lost his company, his freedom, and his reputation in a single night. Soraya Vance, the architect of the humiliation, found herself facing fraud charges, her lies exposed to the world. And Emir? She found something more valuable than wealth, her freedom. Surrounded by her brothers and her new baby, she rebuilt her life. Not as a CEO's wife, but as a strong, independent woman. The lawyers her brothers brought didn't just win a case, they delivered justice. What did you think of this karmic takedown? Do you think Morgan got what he deserved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of justice and dramatic real-life karma.